may belong to a group of people that some others may think are inferior, but I belong to a group of people that God of all power says, you are my children. I know I'm as good, if not better, than anybody that walks the halls of Congress.
Hi everybody, this is Ashley with Ashley Says So, and I am back with another old Hollywood scandal video. And let me say this before we get started. Adam Clayton Powell Jr. was a warrior for Black people. He played his part in the theatrical political stage play very well. So I'm not trying to take away from any of his achievements, but baby, we about to dig into that personal life because it really was a scandalous affair. So let's get to it after this disclaimer. Everything in this video is alleged. It is gossip, tea, and scandal that I get from everywhere. Make sure you guys do your own research. Adam Clayton Powell Jr. was born on November the 29th, 1908 in New Haven, Connecticut. His mother's name was Mattie Buster Schaefer, and his father's name was Adam Clayton Powell Sr. And it was really the genius workings of Adam Clayton Powell Sr. that laid the groundwork for his son. You see, Adam Clayton Powell Sr. worked his way up from nothing. He even attended Yale before he became the pastor of one of the first Black megachurches, which is called Abyssinian Baptist Church. The congregation at one time grew to over 11,000 people. And so the Powells were looked at like royalty, not only by the Abyssinian congregation, but also by the rest of the Harlem residents that surrounded the area. And since Adam Sr. was pastor, that would make him king of Abyssinian, and they called his only son, Adam Jr., the Prince of Abyssinian. And because Adam Jr. was spoiled with all of this attention and adoration from an early age, he started to act out at an early age. Because I'm trying to figure out how you being called the Prince of the Church, but by the age of 12 years old, you're sneaking out of service on Sundays to go hunt some little girls down the street. But not only was little Adam sneaking out of the church to go mess around with little girls, he was also sneaking out of the church to go walk down popular Manhattan streets while smoking his paper-rolled cigarette. So this child was a character from very early on, but none of the adults suspected Adam because for one, he would always sneak back into service before altar call, and for two, Adam Clayton Powell Jr. was genius at pulling the wool over people's eyes. Since Adam's parents and the rest of the congregation, especially the older congregation, knew nothing about Adam sneaking out, messing with girls, smoking, and all of this kind of stuff, when Adam came up to his father requesting that he start his own organization in the church, everybody thought it was a blessing from God. You know, his pastor father was proud. Look at my boy. He wanted to grow up in the Lord just like me. The whole congregation was shouting about how the young Adam was letting the Lord use him at such an early age. And so Adam's father gave him permission to start up his own organization or his own program in the church. And Adam did. It was called the Young Thinkers. Well, all of the young boys in the church around Adam's age joined into his group, only to find that their leader has organized this group activity just for them to talk about sex. Not only are they talking about sex, he's asking them if they ever smoked pipes before, you know, what kind of liquor they done drunk. Baby, Adam even went so far as to bring nudie magazines to the church so that he and the rest of the young thinkers could ponder the boobies together. Now, by the time Adam graduated high school and went off to City College, the wool was definitely starting to be pulled from his parents' eyes. And that is because Adam had to flee City College due to his failing grades, and also due to the fact that several girls that lived in the surrounding neighborhoods of City College started to fight each other, as well as started trying to fight Adam, accusing him of taking their virginity and lying like he was head over heels for them. You know, lying like they were the only one. But even though Adam left City College in disgrace, his father sought to give him another chance. And so his father paid and sent him to an even more upscale college called Collegiate University. And while Adam was here, he surprised a lot of people by doing magnificently well. In fact, there were only 4 other blacks at this college, and Adam seemed to be surpassing them all. But then it was found that Adam was only surpassing all of the other blacks because he was actually literally passing over the other blacks when he was passing himself off as white. So of course Adam is going to receive all of the achievements and accolades if people thought he was white. You know, those black boys could never get what Adam was getting at that time. But like I said before, the truth was found out and it caused quite the scandal. Adam was kicked out of his whites only dorm. He lost his little white girlfriend, and the other blacks on campus wanted nothing to do with him. Especially since one of those other 4 black boys was actually lighter skinned than Adam. And so if you got black students even lighter than Adam not trying to pass for white, then you know those other black students looked at Adam like he had no dignity. But Adam Clayton Powell Jr. had a personality that just wouldn't quit. And since he'd now dropped all of those white pretenses and could act like his regular black self, after a while they invited Adam into their fold. Him and his newfound friends would walk into the surrounding black communities getting all of the attention from the girlies. And it was actually while hanging out with one of his homeboys that Adam would meet his future wife, a showgirl. Her name was Isabel Washington, and she was the younger sister of actress Freddie Washington. Per Isabel, Adam was a charmer from the start. Not only did he immediately care for her, he also cared for her son that she had from a previous marriage. And to credit Isabel's story, Adam absolutely was a man that a woman would immediately fall head over heels for. You know, he was very sure of himself and he didn't bow down to white folk. When he spoke, people listened. He knew how to have a good time. And it didn't hurt that the boy came from a wealthy family and had a boatload of money. So in Isabel's eyes, she just knew he was destined for success. And so from that first day, they started dating. And about 6 months to a year in, Adam ended up proposing to Isabel and she said yes. This proposal would not go smooth though, because the couple faced a huge problem, and that problem was Adam's daddy. Baby, Adam Sr. did not like Isabel at all. He didn't see Isabel living up to the Powell greatness, and not only that, he didn't see Isabel living up to the Powell holiness. He felt like she wasn't nothing but a little hoish showgirl. And so although Adam Jr. had proposed to Isabel, his father would not give his blessing and he wouldn't agree to the marriage. And because Adam Sr. would openly show his disdain for Isabel, as a matter of fact, he would call her Jezebel, the members of his church at Abyssinian didn't like Isabel either. Even when Isabel started to attend the church every Sunday and she tried to ingratiate herself with the members, they still didn't like her. And so Adam Jr. would constantly tell Adam Sr., you know, Dad, this is the woman that I love. You know, I want to marry her. And his father would say no. He would say, you're not going to throw away your future, and if you decide to marry her without my blessing, you're going to be cut off from the family fortune. So one day Adam Jr. and Isabel go to church, and then after the church service is over, Adam Jr. walks up to his father, Adam Sr., and Adam Jr. continues to say what he's been saying all along. You know, Daddy, I love Isabel and I'm going to marry her. And Adam Sr. tells him what he's been saying all along. Okay, son, go ahead and marry her. But like I told you before, you're going to do it without the family's money. Baby, the folks say Adam Jr. showed out. Said he took off his hat, tossed it on the ground, and stumped his foot and said, look here, old man, I don't need your money. I can make my own way with me and Isabel just fine. And if you and this church can't accept my Isabel, then I can't accept you and this church. And Adam Jr. was victorious. A few days after this incident, his father called him over to the house and he told him that he would finally give his blessing for Adam Jr. to marry Isabel. But first, Isabel had to be baptized in the waters of the Abyssinian baptismal pool to prove that she was worthy and holy enough to take the hand of the Prince of Abyssinia. And of course, Isabel rushed to do this. Thousands of tickets started to be sold to this wedding of the century. And on March the 15th, 1933, Isabel Washington became the new Princess of Abyssinia. But Isabel had no idea of the level of narcissism that Adam Clayton Powell Jr. possessed. And unfortunately for her, being married to Adam turned out to be nothing more than a punch to the stomach, figuratively and literally. And let me tell you about the literal one. Gossip claims one Sunday the service had ended and Adam was in the pulpit talking to the deacons and Isabel was waiting by the front pew. Well, a lady who was a member of the church walked up to Isabel. And this lady was probably somebody that Adam had messed with in the past, even though he claimed he didn't. When this lady got up to Isabel, she said something to the effect of, "Hello, Isabel. You should really watch your back, you know. You might get kidnapped one day." And that was when she punched Isabel in the stomach. And then when Isabel keeled over, she also punched Isabel in the head. Thankfully for Isabel, Adam and the others rushed over to her aid and also they were able to stop her attacker. But when the attacker was stopped, things became even more strange because she started to yell, Adam, how could you do this to me, Adam? You're supposed to marry me. We were born for each other. Isabel's gotta go. She's gotta go. Ugh. The lady did so much yelling and hollering that she was shipped off to a mental hospital and she stayed there until she died. So that was crazy, but unfortunately for Isabel, this would not be the end of the craziness she would have to put up with. You see, Adam Clayton Powell Jr. was the most eligible bachelor, probably black or white, in America at this time when she had married him. So women were always throwing themselves at him, and a lot of them would go overboard to try to get Adam any way they could. The folks say that after a few years of marriage, Adam ended up stepping up to be assistant pastor in his father's church. Well, one of the roles that he took on in this new position was to visit the sick and shut in whenever they missed church. Well, gossip claims that one time there was this elderly woman who had missed at least 3 Sundays of church, and she kept phoning the church and writing letters and everything else saying she needed Adam to visit her. She needed the young man to come pray for her. And so Adam finally found time and he showed up at the lady's house. So Adam knocks on the door and the lady, let's just call her Miss Edna, opened the door and was stark naked. Baby said before Adam could get a word out of his mouth, she pulled him by his tie and started trying to take his clothes off of him. When Adam pulled away from the older lady and started running around the house, he was yelling out, what are you doing, Miss Edna? What are you doing? I came to visit you. You said you were sick. Baby said, Miss Edna said, oh, Adam, honey, I am sick. I'm heartsick in love with you. Can't you see? I need you, Adam. I need you to bless me. Child said Adam was running like a chicken with his head cut off trying to escape that woman. And he finally made it to the front door and he got the H up out of there. And Adam went straight home and he told Isabel about this. And that lady, I believe, was like barred from coming to the church again or something like that. But what Adam didn't tell Isabel is that allegedly the reason that this older lady came up with this idea to do this is because she'd heard of other ladies, younger, prettier ladies, putting their names on the sick and shut-in list and Adam coming to their house to pray for them and shooting his anointing oil on their stomachs before he left. Whatever the case, though, that elderly woman, Miss Edna, acting like this was actually a good thing for Isabel because once word started to spread around the church about what happened, things got a little bit too heated for Adam to continue his sick and shut-in visits, and so he was taken off of that task altogether. But honey, believe me, just because Adam wasn't getting none of that sick and shut-in TT no more, don't mean he wasn't getting it from somewhere else, especially since with every year that passed, his star power would increase. By 1941, Adam was not only the assistant pastor Prince of Abyssinian, he was also New York City's first black councilman. And Adam played this part exceedingly well. He would stage marches, he forced white businesses to hire black help, and he also used his new position to pick with white folks as well. There were plenty of times when he and Isabel would be traveling for his political career that Adam would sit in the white people's or the whites only cabin on the train. And one of these times, Adam engrossed himself in a conversation with an elderly white male who thought Adam was white. And so this old white man is talking good, honey. He is telling his life story. He is talking about fishing, and Adam is conversing back with him. They're having a great conversation. But then the train train ends up passing by a field and there are black people working in this field. And so that elderly white man looks out of the window and the first thing he says is, ugh, look at them iggers. I can't stand them, black blickety black. And so this elderly man is just saying some of anything about black folk. And when he finally stops to take a breath, Adam jumps in to say, well, I'm so sorry to hear that you feel that way about Negroes on account of the fact that you just been sitting here talking to one. And Adam held it. He kept his face just like this, giving the white man ample time to respond. And when he was sure that he saw the elderly man's face filled with fear and confusion, only then did he get up from his seat, tip his hat, and then he took his wife and they walked to the next cabin. And so he would do things like this, and then he would go sailing with Isabel, who looked just as white as him. You know, they would go sailing on the lake and talk to white folks and then blow their mind by telling these folks that they were black. He was just a willing, dealing son of a gun who kept a cigar in his mouth and a glass of gin in his hand. So Isabel, who unknowingly had been getting cheated on all this time, you know, Adam had been doing what he was doing, but he was so good to her. You know, he put on such a good cover. She had no idea he was treating her like this. So this is what she saw. The stuff I just explained with the white folks and all of this kind of stuff, this is what she saw. She adored her husband, which is why what was about to happen to her was so heartbreaking. See, by 1943, 1944, Adam had made up his mind that he wanted to become New York's state representative. And in order to do this, he needed more than his local community or his local church folks speaking for him. He needed black celebrities on his side. Well, one of those black celebrities he invited to perform at one of his campaigns was singer, actress, pianist Hazel Scott. And Hazel Scott at this moment was all that. Baby, she was smart, elegant, talented, beautiful. And so after Adam got her to perform for his campaign once, he started inviting her over and over again. And so by the year 1944, Hazel and Adam had begun a torrid affair. And poor Isabel was so blind and she held so much trust in her husband that this affair was happening right up under her nose. Adam was so bold that when he had picked out a night to go spend with Hazel, but Isabel would complain and say, you know, we should go out, we should do something, Adam would take Isabel to go see Hazel play. Honey, Isabel is sitting in the audience clapping, talking about bravo, bravo. And Hazel is up there shooting her husband air kisses and winking, pretty much teasing him in front of his wife about when the next time they're going to be able to get together. Adam also had started to bring Hazel around his parents. Well, no, let me take that back because his mother loved Isabel, but he would take Hazel around his father, Adam Sr. And Adam Sr., who had never liked Isabel, thought Hazel, with her big talent and her world-renowned reputation, was great for his son. Hazel really fit the mold. You know, in Adam Sr.'s eye, she really brought class to the Powell name. So lots of times, Isabel would be at home and Adam would be out fishing with his father with Hazel on his arm. Well, honey, let me tell you, by 1945, Adam is head over heels with Hazel. But also, this is the election year. He is trying to get state representative. Adam Clayton Powell Jr. is so superb that he sweeps the vote, baby, getting the majority from the Republicans, the Democrats, and the Libertarians. The seat was his, and he proved that he was no longer a prince, but now a king. And as a king, he was ready for his new queen. So story says, soon after he won his seat in Washington, he and the rest of the newly voted in representatives were supposed to go to Washington to have dinner at the White House. And Isabel, just as clueless as ever, is at home. She's packing her stuff, you know, getting ready, trying to get her hair stuffed, and Adam walks into the house. And Isabel says, hold on, baby, I'm almost done. I'm getting the last few things. And Adam stops her and he says, Isabel, baby, I love you so much. You know I do. But go ahead and stop packing, baby, because you're not going with me to Washington. Isabel is floored. She said her throat gets dry immediately. And she's like, what? What you mean? Well, you know, I got other stuff going on. And, you know, you're just not going. You're just not going with me, Isabel. And Isabel is like, huh? Adam, what are you talking about? I'm your wife and I'm going. You know, what about sex? What about sex? I don't know. You stay here and be celibate. And this answer right here is when Isabel knew, okay, now this Negro on some bullshit. And so she's like, oh yeah? Oh yeah, Adam, just be celibate? Okay, well, what you gonna do? What about sex for you? What you gonna do? You know, Isabel, I'm not even gonna answer that. All I'm gonna say is that I've outgrown you, baby. You know, I'm a big man now. I got big plans. You know, you small time. You stuck in a small place. So I've just outgrown you and you're not coming with me. Deal with it. This right here was the figurative gut punch that I was talking about earlier. And baby, he was so ruthless that when he got to Washington, he went to the president's dinner with Hazel Scott on his arm. Isabel was completely broken. She had given up her whole career for this man, been married to him for 11 years. Adam wouldn't even answer the phone for Isabel anymore, never even talked to her again, had his lawyers deal with her, and then didn't agree to give her any money. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, he made her move out of their apartment and everything. Isabel had to start all the way over with nothing. Adam didn't care not one bit because he had Hazel Scott on his arm, and she was his everything now. And when they attended that president's dinner in Washington, oh baby, it showed. Honey, Hazel walked in holding on to Adam with a skin-tight white dress on. She was dripping in diamonds, speaking to all of Adam's new peers. For the next several days that they were in Washington and they attended all of the upper-class black parties, Hazel and Adam were the stars of the show. Many of the women there thought Hazel was being absolutely disrespectful, having this woman's husband on her arm. But Hazel got a kick out of it, honey, so much so that at one of the parties, she sat down at the grand piano and started playing a love and romance song dedicated to Adam. It was clear that they were intent on becoming black political royalty. And to be honest with you, that's just what they did. Because as much as I'm ragging on Hazel and Adam, for this new phase in Adam's life, Hazel was the best fit. As a state rep, Adam was becoming even more brash and even more bold. He would shoot off his mouth to anybody, letting folks know that black folks is here. Black folks is in the house. As a matter of fact, at his first congressional session, the Mississippi state rep, a man by the name of John Rankin, kicked up a stink. You know, he said that he couldn't believe a black person was in Congress and he wasn't going to have no dealings with Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Well, Adam is not a man that you would want to challenge like this. And so as soon as Representative Rankin said this, Adam got up from his seat and went to sit directly beside Representative Rankin. Child, that old man was blowing steam out of his ears, and he got up to move, and Adam moved and sat right beside him again. The folks say Adam made that man move 5 times before he finally stopped messing with him. So yes, not only was Adam Clayton Powell Jr. letting Congress know that black people had arrived, he was letting them know that he had arrived. Now, to get back to his personal life, when Hazel first came along, many of the people at Abyssinian adored her. You know, they welcomed her with open arms. Firstly, because she was darker skinned and had taken Adam away from that light-skinned Jezebel. And secondly, they knew their pastor, Adam Sr., adored her. However, when Adam's mother passed away, a lot of those members who chose Hazel over Isabel started to feel like they had made a mistake, and it was because they had gotten their first taste of who Hazel Scott really was. The folks say at Adam's mother's funeral, Hazel walked in hugging all on Adam just like she had been doing in Washington. And this right here was sure enough scandalous behavior to these church folks. I mean, they knew that Hazel and Adam kind of had something going on and all this kind of stuff, but Adam was assistant pastor. Not only that, his divorce with Isabel was not finalized yet. So this woman walking up, switching all down the aisle with their married assistant pastor put a bad taste in a lot of their mouths. You know, they just felt like maybe she could be a little bit more discreet, a little bit more respectful, especially at his mother's funeral. Now, don't get me wrong, they weren't only dumping on Hazel. I mean, a lot of them were very angry at Adam as well, but Hazel was the outsider, so you already know she got it a little bit worse than what Adam got. And also, Hazel continued getting it worse because these members, the congregation, continued to see her attitude unfold. And Hazel was nothing like Isabel. Hazel would not give up her career. She was not trying to become a church woman and be the princess or queen of Abyssinian. She wasn't trying to get involved with none of the church programs and organizations and stuff like that. Hazel wouldn't even show up to church on Sundays. She would come when she felt like it. As a matter of fact, gossip claims that Adam got a big laugh out of this. He basically told some of his close friends, ain't that something? Isabel, the one that tried her hardest to mix in with these folks folks and do stuff with these folks and become the good church girl that they wanted. They ain't like her. But Hazel, the one that don't want nothing to do with them and ain't trying to please them, they was ready to welcome her with open arms. To continue the story from the point that we're at, the same year that Adam divorced Isabel, he and Hazel got married. That was the year 1945. They ended up having a son that very next year in 1946, Adam Clayton Powell III. And then they became the political celebrity couple. Hazel still had her glamorous career, and Adam would travel the world fighting for different causes. But by the 1950s, things started to get a little shaky for the couple. Hazel's professional gigs started to slow down, and Adam Clayton Powell Jr. started sniffing elsewhere for his loving. He was seen around town with younger and more beautiful showgirls. He was seen out around town with white women. As a matter of fact, at one point, gossip claims he even bedded an Asian woman. Rumor has it got so bad that Adam would tell Hazel that he had to go off to Washington or somewhere else on political business. But when he returned, Hazel wouldn't even know that he was back home. There were several times when her friends would call her and be like, "Hey, Hazel girl, so you gonna perform at so-and-so club tonight?" And Hazel would be like, "No, what you talking about? Why?" "Well, I just saw Adam there sitting at the bar talking to some people, and I just assumed he was there to make preparation because you was gonna perform or something." And Hazel would be like, "Adam, like, no, girl, he done flew out of town. He gone on business." And the person on the phone trying to clean everything up would be like, oh, girl, that must have been somebody else I saw, child. Never mind, I thought I saw Adam. Knowing that they had just seen Adam. I mean, look at him. He is 6'4" and the only black white man in the whole community. Of course you saw him. So Hazel would be extremely hurt by Adam's philandering. And by the year 1957, it had gotten so bad that when she would go off on the small tours that she was still having, honey, the reporters would be like, "Hey, Hazel, what do you think? They say they saw Adam with this woman or that woman." And Hazel would snap back, "Well, Adam's not a gay man. He's not a gay man, so it's expected that he will behave the way he's behaving." So it was just a mess, and it was clear that by late 1957, 1958, that their marriage was over, and they divorced in the year 1960. And right after Adam had divorced Hazel, he ended up marrying a Puerto Rican lady by the name of Yvette Flores. And the truth was, Adam wasn't no more in love with Yvette than he was with Hazel or his first wife, Isabel. She was another stepping stone for him. And I say this because Yvette was from a very important, very well-connected political family that was from Puerto Rico. So, Adam married her trying to see where he can move himself in and connect with someone. But marrying Yvette, especially marrying Yvette so quickly, was the very first start to Adam's soon-to-be downfall. And just by looking at pictures of Yvette, you can see why. In black folks' eyes, Adam had just left a dark or a brown-skinned woman for, what they looked at as a white woman. And then not only that, because Adam and Hazel, when they were together, were always traveling, were always away from Abyssinian church, were always away from the black community, black neighborhoods, that distance had been felt. Adam now felt almost too Hollywoodish, too playboyish to be serious and connected to black issues. And soon, black people started looking to others to take his place, namely Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. And baby, Adam hated this. Who were these young bucks coming up trying to lead the black folk? He was the king of the black race. He was the leader they wanted and needed. He ain't never had to share no spotlight before, and he wasn't finna do it now. So like I said, Adam definitely had a problem with both MLK and Malcolm X, but unfortunately for MLK, it was him that Adam absolutely hated. And this was for two reasons. Firstly, Adam felt like MLK had modeled his entire method off of him. You see, I didn't touch on much of what Adam had done for the black community in his time coming up, but he had done a lot. It was actually Adam that staged the first black bus boycott. He did it back in Harlem way back in the 1940s. And when it came to his boycott, he got tangible results for the black people. It wasn't about hey, you get to sit in the front now. It wasn't about that. He got black people actually actual jobs with the bus company. Not only that, when it came to the whole thing about the church coming together and organizing the marches, Adam was the first one to do all that. He gathered up the female members at Abyssinian and he took them out on the streets to picket and to march. You remember when I was saying he got those white jobs to hire black people? That was because the church members had got together and they picketed in the streets. He organized all that. And again, in Adam's eyes, he got tangible results. Those black people got jobs from this. He opened up kitchens to feed poor and homeless black people. He did that. All I'm trying to say is that this man didn't need nobody creating things and giving him the ideas and doing all of this stuff. He was the brainchild. He was the planner. He was the one that put the plans in motion. Everybody else came to help and assist him in what he was going to do regardless. So when it comes to Adam, in knowing everything that he has done and seeing what MLK was doing and all of the help that MLK was getting, as in coming up with ideas and putting events together and all of that kind of stuff, Adam just did not respect it. So that's the first thing he didn't respect about MLK. The second thing he didn't respect was the way that MLK acted like the good little church boy or the man that can do no wrong when Adam had heard rumors about MLK's personal life that led him to believe that MLK was out here getting down with certain things just like everybody else, but he was sitting up there doing it with a halo over his head. And while Adam may have had some very valid and good points, in the end, it still boiled down to him just being a jealous hater. You know, he just was. He was very jealous of MLK Jr. And because of this, he became very petty and very messy. Child, the folks say when MLK Jr. started to organize his first picket line or his first picket march, Adam heard about it, hopped on the phone and called MLK's closest aide, a man by the name of Wayward Rustin, and told Wayward, listen, Slick, I already know that you and Martin, ain't that what y'all call him, Lil Martin? I already know how y'all get down. I know y'all gay. I done heard about you. I heard about your love-making session. I just want to tell you to tell him if he goes through with doing this picket line march, I'm going to get on national TV and I'm going to tell everybody how you two are lovers. Goodbye. Now, all of the sites that like to report on this conversation today love to say that, you know, Adam ought to be ashamed of himself coming and making these empty threats and he know wasn't no truth in it. You know, Adam Clayton Powell was lying about MLK and Bayard being gay. He was just angry. But no matter what they want to say today, after that phone call was made, Wayward Rustin, who again had been MLK's closest aide, stepped down from that position immediately and kind of backed on into the shade, allegedly barely ever working with MLK ever again. But let's move on.
And then Adam found out, like many of us have found out over the years, that a lot of those civil rights groups would prop up black faces while hiding white faces who were really running things behind the scenes. So he really had no respect for MLK.
Now, because Adam Clayton Powell Jr. did hold this particular hate for MLK Jr., he started to speak out on MLK publicly, you know, during his speeches. And he would basically say things like, you know, you got these new young cats coming up, you know, Malcolm X and MLK, and Malcolm, he's all right. You know, I respect him. I respect the cat. But that MLK Jr., I can't stand him. You know, he's weak. He ain't got no backbone and he's a phony. But in doing this, Adam overshot himself. He didn't realize the disconnect that the black community had gained from him since he was always high-flying and going all across the world. So now they were more attached to MLK Jr. than they were to him. And so you just didn't talk about Black America's new darling, their new golden boy. And so this was the second event that would kick off the downfall of Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Because once Adam kind of found himself pushed out of the black church civil rights type circle, he decided to focus all of his attention on being a state representative. But instead of him buckling down and being really serious about this thing, he tried to do this while still maintaining this international playboy type high-flying lifestyle. Child, folks would say that Congress would be in session with the House of Representatives. Adam Clayton Powell would be on the beach in Bahamas playing dominoes, child, doing a phone-in while the session was going on. Now, this wasn't unheard of. People had done it before, but usually those people would be away on business as to why they couldn't be in the chamber. They wouldn't be relaxing on some beach somewhere drinking, playing dominoes. So things things just started to fall. At one point he was investigated for a tax evasion and he was able to pay that off and escape from that. Then it was claimed that Adam had been misappropriating funds while he was in office, paying for his vacations and high living with government money. And then on one of those vacations, actually a 6-week trip to Europe, I think it was, he took 2 workers with him. I think it was 2 white women talking about they worked for him. But sir, how they working for you and you sleeping in the bed with both of them while you on the trip? But anyways, he took them on the trip. Not only that, it's alleged that he put them on the payroll, giving them made up titles and had them getting paid from government funds. He was just living terribly reckless. And like I said, they were investigating him now. By 1967, they were ready to charge Adam with certain things. And this man did a self-exile, which means he fled from the charges to the Bahamas. Since the authorities couldn't get to him like they wanted to, they went to the House of Representatives, and the House of Representatives decided to take Adam's seat from him. You're not even in this country anymore. You're running away from the law, so we're going to snatch your representative seat from you, and we're going to seat somebody else. But baby, they must have forgot just who Adam Clayton Powell Jr. was. And one thing he didn't take was no mess from white folks. And so Adam fought these people back. He fought Congress. Baby, not only fought them, took it all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the mother sucker won. In 1969, the Supreme Court deemed it unconstitutional that Congress would try to take Adam's seat from him. Soon after, it was decided that Adam could keep his seat. I think most of those charges that he initially had ended up being dropped by him, and I think his lawyers kind of worked out everything else. And so in the year 1970, Adam flew back into the U.S. to finish up his term as state representative. And when he came back, as soon as he landed, all of the media were sitting there waiting to ask him, Adam, how did you pull off this incredible feat? The people want to know how you did it. Adam, being the willing, dealing son of a gun that he was, stuck his face close to the cameras and the microphone and said, "Just tell the people to keep the faith, baby. Keep the faith." And then took off running to whatever function he had to go to. The man was a character. But anyways, to finish up the story, by the end of 1970, Adam's political career in the United States was over. And instead of staying here, he jumped on a plane and flew to Bahamas to live, saying that he was going to start another political career there. And although Adam had made this decision, I kind of think that man was kind of just going through the motions. He had really lost his identity by now. He had been living this high-flying, drinking and smoking lifestyle. He had also been a politician. He knew he had something to offer in way of civil rights because that was also his background. So I really think Adam was just kind of grasping for self, trying to find himself, steady himself. But many of the people back home, especially in his original community around Harlem, and the members from the Abyssinian Baptist Church, they didn't even recognize this new Adam. In their eyes, he had completely given himself up to worldliness, completely given himself up to sin, and they were shocked that this man who was their pastor's son that they had basically known from a little boy who was all active in his community and stuff like that, they were just shocked at what Adam had become. And actually, that's another thing that I think that Adam was kind of running away to Bahamas for. I think he was shamed. You know what I'm saying? I think he felt like a total disgrace. I think he felt like he let down his original community, the original people that loved him and supported him. I think he felt like he really let them down. And so, like I said, he got to the Bahamas and he kind of got involved with politics, but he found out very quickly that he just didn't have the heart for it anymore. As a matter of fact, he just about barely had a heart, literally, because I haven't said anything about it, but Adam started having heart trouble very early on. Allegedly, he had his first heart attack in the late 1950s, and then since then, he had also had a tumor removed from his heart. So now that Adam was spending his days basically drinking, smoking, and just sitting in depression, it wasn't long before his heart and other organs in his body would give up on him completely. And this day came on April the 4th, 1972. Adam Clayton Powell Jr. fell ill and he was flown from Bahamas to a hospital in Miami, and he ended up passing away of acute prostatitis at the age of 63 years old. So anyways, guys, this is the end of the old Hollywood scandalous story of New York Representative Adam Clayton Powell Jr. If you guys enjoyed the video, please like the video. If you guys are new here, please subscribe. And Patreon members, I promise I haven't forgotten about y'all. Y'all's video is coming up next. But anyways, I will be back with another video soon.